Listen, when a mom does a search for a pediatrician in New York City today, instead of being matched with the best information from across the web, which is what the original bargain of Google was, she's being unwittingly steered into an objectively lower quality set of results. And this type of local searching happens literally billions of times a week in the United States. So I think that the US government's going to have a pretty straightforward case here in terms of showing direct empirical evidence of consumer harm.
So, Luther, who's in a better position to show those results? I mean, when you do a search on Yelp for a pediatrician, the consumer similarly gets advertisements at the top, do they not?
It's not about necessarily ads versus non-ads. It's about whether we're actually getting organic results. So the whole idea of Google was, let's use a merit-based process to scan the entire web of potential candidates for good results, and then serve the users the best up at the top. And today, when consumer does that type of search, they instead get this sort of degraded quality. So I'm not saying Yelp necessarily has it. It could be ZocDoc, RateMDs, Health Grades. There's a whole ecosystem of services that provide that type of information that's basically being sidestepped so Google can serve this stuff out of its back pocket. And again, this type of searching is the most common thing we do on Google, and it's directly harming consumers because the quality of the search results are actually getting a lot lower.
Luther, it seems to me that if this is another antitrust action that comes down to consumer harm, and if consumer is defined as the person who's doing the searching, then you're not likely to win. I mean, isn't the consumer the advertiser who's actually paying Google for services? If that is the case, then you can make all kinds of arguments around market power, around pricing, things like that. But if the consumer is the individual doing the searching, I mean, most people, despite all the reasons you've mentioned, seem pretty happy with Google.
Well, I think we've got to still process the complaint. I'm also skimming through it as well this morning, and I noticed that the element of advertising harm is a component of this. So I wouldn't see why the government wouldn't argue both instances. And then the important thing to remember, as was mentioned earlier, is that the state's attorneys general are actually bringing separate cases in the weeks and months ahead that attack different elements of Google's business. So I would just say that this is a really difficult position for Google to be in today.
Does Yelp ever think to themselves, if we grow big enough, we could end up in Google's position ourselves?
Well, that's certainly a high-class problem. I think, our market cap today is like 1/700th or something of Google's. And, I think what Yelp is hoping for is just really the chance for a level playing field where we can compete on the merits. And that's not happening today. And listen, if we don't have the best results, maybe we shouldn't be at the top. Maybe if, it's a hotel search and TripAdvisor has great results, perhaps they should serve up that information. If it's doctor search and ZocDoc has that information, that is the whole idea behind Google, is to let the best stuff bubble up to the top and have this sort of meritocracy-based system. And that's not happening today. And that's why consumers are being harmed and why the government's going after it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.